I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, you know, El Duderino.
Welcome back, Slotcar family, on another video on Slotcar Dude. Today, what's it gonna be today? Yes, it's gonna be vintage against new stuff. Again, you requested it, I was asking for it. Here we go, another try. This time, today, I would like to do Carrera. Yes, I will start off with one of the first Carrera chassis, all in 1:24. So sorry, you 32 guys out there. Most of the vintage stuff I have is 24. That's why the easiest comparison for me to do is 24. To start off with, we'll have, out of the normal first starter sets, one of the first chassis from Carrera with a guide with a suspension. This is the very first motor that Carrera used in the 24 cars. And this Ferrari came in a set, hang on, together with this Porsche. So those two were mainly always in the starter kits in the 1:24. In the old days, it was called 124. Then they changed the name to exclusive, which it is still today. Those were 124 cars, original ones. We're going to have a look at the chassis in detail. Of course, we're going to put it on the test bench and we're going to take it to the track. Compared to one of the middle-aged, little younger chassis put on a Ferrari 250 SW, the chassis is very basic. No suspension on the guide arm. There is the first magnet sitting here and the second magnet sitting here. For all you detail freaks out there, yes, I'm missing the end pods on those exhaust pipes. They got lost somewhere in between. I have to see whether I can still get some aftermarket ones. So we're gonna have a look at this chassis, of course, as well, in detail. We're gonna open it up, we're gonna look at it, we're gonna run it on track. Of course, what's missing is one of the newer ones. Yes, we're gonna compare it with a 917. We're not gonna compare it with a 917, we're gonna compare it with the chassis that has, again, a suspension on the guide arm there. And you can see it's already digital with a switch to be switched to analog. And of course, hang on, with magnets back there. Is it? To the front, sorry, and back there. So, those are the cars that we're going to look at in detail. Especially we're going to look at the chassis, of course, the changes, what's new, what stayed the same. So what we will check out is, I don't want to drop those beauties, those three chassis, those three cars. Gonna have a closer look, vintage, newer stuff. Join me. And here we are already at the test bench with our Ferrari 206 dyno with its Carrera 124 chassis. That was prior the exclusive brand. They were called 124. As you can see, of course, being like 40 years old, 50 years old, it's a little out of bounds, I would say. Let's check out the body. It's got a little details, some details on it. It's got a Lexan cockpit. And the chassis is very interesting. It's got a suspension on the guide for all the elevations that were built in those days. Let's check out the body itself. It's already been bashed a little, as you can see. It is well in use. Again, a Lexan cockpit. Yes, they already knew in those days what was necessary. The overall appearance is, come on, we're talking about the 70s here. Good. It's still quite in a good shape. It came together, or let's check out a second one. It's exactly the same body, as you can see, just a little paint edit. But you can see one or the other detail is different. Same old chassis with the suspension on the guide, and there was a rubber band to keep the guide straight. Yeah, it's just broken. I would need to renew it, but I'll just keep the old stuff on. I prefer that. The yellow paint is just someone had too much paint, I guess, so that was done afterwards. But those cars came together with the Porsche 906, as we can see here. That's just the body, already beaten up a little bit, but still everything there, not broken. Okay, the mirrors are missing, the wiper has been beaten up a little, the front lights are missing, so yes, there are a few parts missing, but the rear fender and the rear spoiler seems to be okay. Rear lights are missing as well. No, there were no lights added in those days. Again, these were the bodies that came together and the cars that came together in the Carrera exclusive starter kits and sets. Yes, I know the mirrors are missing and the front glass is missing as well. But let's check out the chassis again. We've got a very old motor. The 4-point fixing of the chassis to the body kept the same. We're going to open it up now, have a closer look at it, and check out what it looks inside, what it looks like inside. As you might notice, on the rear screws, I added a little foam to have some kind of a suspension for the body float in the rear. And please check out those massive screws that they used in those days. They're still, well, they still do the job, but if you think of the screws that are used today and those screws, those are still very massive, the old screws. Again, as still today, 4 points, 4 screws used to fix the Carrera body, or hold the Carrera body to the chassis. A little fiddly to get underneath there. Yes, I know. I haven't done it for a while, as you can see. I haven't done it with those screws and those bodies. So here we go. The 4 posts and the Lexan cockpit. Very good to see, very clear to see here. Yes, the chassis itself, let's check it out. Yes, that's what it looks like. It's still original wiring, everything is original. We've got the 4 screws, and then there is 1 screw in the middle for the suspension of the guide holder. That's a little wire there that does the suspension, that actually pushes down the whole guide arm where the guide is placed in. Yeah, it is still used today with the rally guys, especially in Spain. They use those suspended or suspension guides a lot for their rally cars. And also on the inside, it stayed pretty much the same. We've got 4 screws to fix the front and the rear axle. Plus here, as you can see, there's a little, what do you call it? Metal bolt to adjust the guide arm in length. So you could change the wheelbase, as you can see here. When we look underneath the rim, which is an aluminium rim, by the way, but it's not true. So you could change the wheelbase, and for that you can also change the swing arm of the guide itself. And check out those rims, they're just pressed to the axle, but they're of course very untrue, coming out of a mold, but a metal mold. So that's aluminium rims in the old days. That's what they looked like. The rubber is also still original, so in those days there was no rubber problem at all with Carrera rubber. Yes, that might be a change. And again, there is the old Carrera motoring for the 124 cars. Hard to find today in running order, but yep, still works good. On the underside of the chassis, please note there was no magnet in it. Don't want to open up that can of worms, magnets, yes or no. Just mentioning the old chassis did not have it on. Now, let's get on to an Carrera exclusive car, the Ferrari 250 that is, with front lights and rear lights. Yes, and what a difference. I mean, this runs a lot smoother than the old chassis does. So the tires and rims have changed. And still we chew those tires today. So the details have improved a lot, as you can see here. On the body, yes, there are more details to the body. No, there were no mirrors when this car was delivered. But again, front and rear lights on that Ferrari as well. I really like it. It's got spoke wheels, yes. What's missing is I've missing or lost 2 tubes from the exhaust pipe. It should be 4. At the moment, it's only 2. There's a full cockpit inside, which is hard plastic. It's not Lexan anymore, unfortunately. And this is what the chassis looks like. And notice there's a switch here, exactly, to switch the direction, and a magnet. And there's also a rear magnet. The switch, so you can change the driving direction of the car anytime just by using that switch or flipping that switch. So again, 4 screws to hold the body to the chassis. Now let's have a closer look on the inside of this Carrera exclusive chassis. As you note right away, the screws are already a lot different. Not that bulky anymore, a little slimmer. They still do the job, of course. They do it well. But the system of 4 screws, interestingly enough, did not change at all. So yes, somebody sticked to the old ideas there. On this chassis, the rear screws also hold the exhaust pipes. So you just unscrew those 2 in the rear, and you can already open the chassis and the body. Let's have a look. Yes, not really. They're a little longer than expected. Give me a sec. There you go. Maybe the second one just to be safe, on the safe side. Yes, there you go. That's open. Now let's have a closer look inside. Yes, of course, there's the electronics in for the front and rear lights. Spoke wheels. Yes, that's why I love this Ferrari so much. And of course, the switch and a lot of cables. There's already a different motor in. That is the Carrera standard now for 124 cars, for the scale 1 to 24. And again, 2 front screws to access the front axle, 2 rear screws to access the rear axle. No suspension, they're the 2 for the front. no suspension for the guide, flat chassis, completely flat. Yes, so that's what it looks like. And you can open up those two screws and remove the magnet, of course, quite easily. And also in the rear, you can open up with two screws and get the rear magnet out. So, and again, here we have the two screws for the rear axle, and in front of the motor, the third screw to open up and access the motor itself and the rear axle, the bushings, and of course the bearing. So yes, that's the exclusive with the fixed guide, no suspension, no, and also no getting the guide straight at all. Next up is a modern one, at least the chassis. Looking at the Porsche 917K here in the psychedelic livery, which I just love, on the test bench. And as you can see, very smooth, very silent. Running on that test bench, it's just very nice to look at. And still, we're not happy today with the outcome. Lights in the front, those in the rear didn't work, I don't know, but there are lights in the front. We're gonna check out a different chassis that has exactly the same setups. A little body detail here, yes, a lot of detail on this car, especially the paint job. The livery is just stunning. The cockpit as well, hard plastic. The fan for the motor, unfortunately not turning. Then in the rear, of course, exhaust pipe, the fifth wheel, and yes, I mean, this is already a stunning livery that you really gotta enjoy. Very interesting. The swing arm is back, as you can see. Then the magnets are built in the rear, and there's also the eyelets for the digital system, and of course the switch for analog to digital and back again. This chassis comes from a Lola T70, as you might notice. It's got all the electronics already in, and again the system to access the front axle and the rear axle stayed quite the same. Yes, we've got a magnet down here and down here, so you need to open up on the upper side of the chassis. Here you've got the eyelet for the digital system, the switch for digital to analog, and the swing arm again for the guide. Interestingly enough that they came back with it. And here once again the upper side of the chassis with the screws to access the axles. Now that was it. No track test with those beauties today. Something in my own interest. Thank you so much to all subscribers, followers out there making this unbelievable YouTube trip of my channel possible. Without this great Slotcar community, I wouldn't have been able to set up this channel and keep it alive as it is, and run it as it is, and supply you with news and vintage stuff that I think is interesting to all of you. Slotcar family, thank you again. If you like what you've seen, don't forget to press that like button. Press that subscribe button if you want to get notified when I issue new videos. Like, share, leave comments, please. Yes, I'm very happy. Every single comment is a joy to me. And, of course, as always with Slotcar Dude, don't forget, there is more to come.